Alright, y'all. Tango 1, Tango 2, Tango 1, Tango 2. Now when you take a look at this, I mean, this is about the same size as an Xbox controller. It's even about the same size as the FR Sky X Lite. But there's something about its ergonomics and the way that it's shaped and how it just fits into your hand that just feels right. It just feels really, really right. That's just like the best way that I can describe it. So let's go over the radio. First of all, obviously it's nice, it's small, it's tiny, and this is the antenna. It flips up open like that. So this is how you're gonna want to run this TBS Tango 2 if you like to mount your antenna on your quad in that horizontal way. But if you're also mounting your antennas vertically, then you just switch this over to the side like that and you're good to go. The other thing that you notice is that these stick ends kind of collapse into themselves. So one thing to note, the TBS Tango does come in two versions. You've got the Pro version and the standard version. And the only difference between the Pro and the standard is that you got these stick ends that pop up like that. So moving on to the top of the radio, you'll notice that we have moved away from your typical toggle switches in favor of these more modern rocker switches, push buttons, and momentary switches on the back. Alright, on the back you got this like soft touch material, and this is also what you pop off in order to access the screws that pops off this back cover, and that then allows you to adjust your gimbal tension if you want to. But the other neat thing is that you can also adjust the vertical throw on the gimbals, and that's pretty huge for me because I'm that weird guy that actually likes my throttle stick to be a lot shorter throw than my pitch and roll. And moving over to the front, you've got your Hall sensor gimbals. You've got an OLED screen in the middle that displays all the information that you want. You've got this neck strap mount right here, which by the way does not come with the radio. This is an optional accessory. You've got jog dial over here that you push button to enter, and then on this side you've got three buttons. You got exit, menu, and page. Moving on to the bottom, you've got your power button up here, as well as a USB Type-C port, which is what you're going to use to flash both the radio as well as the Crossfire, and it also doubles as your charging port. Speaking of charge, this does use a 1S battery. It's got a 500 milliamp LiPo inside it, and according to the spec sheets, will last you about 8 hours on a full charge. Plenty of time. And over to the side of that USB port, you've also got this auxiliary jack, and this is really for headphone users if you want to use OpenTX voice support. So turning on the radio is pretty simple. You just press and hold the power button underneath. You'll see the bars light up.
Welcome to Tango 2.
Navigating through this menu is exactly like OpenTX. You've got a menu button over here, if I can just find it, and that takes you into the Crossfire menu. So if you are in that used to this Crossfire Lewis scripts and that entire ecosystem, you're gonna feel right at home. For me, this is a huge thing because I fly KISS and I use this to control everything about KISS. But if you page over some more, you'll see that the screens look just like OpenTX. The other thing that people are asking me is like, wait a second, how do you adjust sub trim? Well, it's as simple as just double pressing the jog dial, and it greets you with a menu that you can then use to choose which of the axes that you want to adjust the sub trim on. So what's it like using this radio? So first off, if you are a thumbs kind of guy, this is a no-brainer. It just feels really good in the hands. Nothing is in the way. Everything just kind of falls into place the way it should. But the bigger question is for people who pinch, and I know a lot of people are asking about that. And I'm happy to say it is just as good for people who pinch. The biggest concern that I had is, after using the X Lite as a pincher, I was concerned about my thumbs and fingers touching the radio in the most extreme, movements. But as you can see, let's get this better. Not a problem. Like everything is good. Like nothing hits. Everything feels the way it should. And there's something about this shape too. Like if you're a pinch kind of guy, like me at least, you tend to have like this grip on the radio where things just kind of wrap around, kind of like this. And the thing that I noticed is that your pinky likes to rest underneath and just kind of cradles the radio. And I feel like it it just works. Everything just feels really comfortable as a pincher. Alright, so let's talk about these switches, because these are definitely different from your typical radio. I absolutely love them. Rocker switches, in my opinion, are the way to go because they don't stick out, which means it is less likely to accidentally hit something, along with these push buttons. So for me, flying mini quads, there's really three things that are important. One is the arm switch, which I use this button for. Again, it's at home, it's not hard to find. You just push it and you're either armed or disarmed. The second thing is having air mode on the switch. And the reason for that is because I like to perch sometimes, and it's just so much easier to perch when you can turn air mode off. So for Betaflight users, I use this as my air mode switch, and if you fly KISS like me, this is actually my idle up switch, which basically does the same thing. The last thing is turtle mode, right? You crash into a tree, you flip over upside down, you just want to be able to flick a switch and flip things over. So here's what I did. I actually set it up two different ways. So just because I'm just used to things being on a switch, I've set up this button right here. So basically all the way down enables turtle mode. But what I've also done is I've set up this momentary button to do the same thing. And the reason is because you're only really in turtle mode for just a brief moment to flip yourself over. And I found that just hitting this and then flipping this over however you need to get away, and then letting go of the button kind of gets the job done so much faster than having to flip the switch. I mean, it's not so much faster, but it just seems more practical to me. Now, while TBS says that these are full-size Hall sensor gimbals, I feel like they're just maybe just a hair smaller than full size. Well, let's just make sure. Okay. I feel like it might just be a hair. You know, it might be the same size. I don't know. It might just be because of the way that I'm gripping it now, and it feels smaller. I'm not sure. But what I did was, as you can see here, I've actually made this a little bit taller, and this really made it feel right at home for me. So probably the biggest thing that I love most about this is its compact and lightweight size. See, for me, especially if I'm doing like commercial gigs, flying gigs, you got to be able to just set up on a moment's notice, and the least amount of setup time the better, right? Even for you're doing freestyle stuff where maybe you got to get in, you got to get out, you don't want to be spending your time just getting all set up, right? So let me show you what happens on my normal radio. I gotta pull my radio out, I take out the covers, then I gotta reach in, I gotta grab my crossfire, I stick it out back, reach in my bag, get my antenna, then I gotta put this on. Once that's on, I may or may not have my neck strap on, but then I strap in, turn on the radio, and I'm good to go. Then when I gotta pack up, I gotta do the same thing, but in reverse. So I gotta take out the direct strap. Then I take off the antenna, put that away, take out the crossfire because I don't want it to get smashed and have these pins get all jacked up. Put that away in my bag. Reach in, find my gimbal covers if I haven't lost them, and put this back in my bag. So with the Tango 2, I would pull it out of my bag, flip up the sticks, radio up, and now I'm ready to roll. So much faster. Same thing in reverse. Take out the neck strap, collapse the sticks, fold the antenna down, put it back in my radio. So much better, so much better. Just for that alone, to me, is worth this radio. Speaking of worth, this radio is supposed to retail for $150 for the standard version and $200 for the Pro. Again, the only difference between the Pro and the standard are these collapsible sticks, which in my opinion is huge. So there's other things that you can get for it as well when you buy it. One of them being this neck strap mount. which if you're going to get the Pro version so that you can get the collapsible sticks, in my opinion, that is an absolute must, because if you take a look, that mount is the tallest point on the radio, which just adds to making sure that your gimbals are nice and protected. Alright, so here's what I don't like about this radio. And it's not really so much like I don't like it, it's just more something that I had to get used to and adjust to. And that is how my hands rest on the radio. Let me show you guys. So here's what happens and what I'm used to on a full-size radio like this. I like to have it somewhat up. The bottom of the radio rests on my stomach, and I've got this sort of 90 degrees on my arms where my hands basically just rest on the radio. So there is no holding of the radio that's going on with my hand. Like it's just resting on top of it. Well, once I moved over to the Tango, I noticed that I couldn't really let it rest up against my stomach anymore because it's so much shorter, and so it made the grip feel just weird to me. And so what ended up happening is, instead of having this 90 degrees, I'm now having my pinky underneath, and now I had to get used to pretty much holding and supporting the radio with my hand. The other thing that I started doing is that with the neck strap on, I've let it just kind of really go down here and have a little bit of a different angle for me to find that nice comfortable position. I think that's just a really minor gripe, you know. It's one of those things where I feel like I just need to spend like a teeny bit more time getting used to finding what this actual angle and position is for me to get comfortable with the flying. And for me personally, I've also found that just raising the stick ends up just a little bit to give you even just a little bit of a longer throw is really what made this hit home for me. So one thing that you want to consider before you buy the Tango 2 is how many drones do you have that you won't be able to fly with this radio. So obviously, this being crossfire only, you got to make sure that any drone that you want to fly with this radio has to be something that you can put crossfire onto. Now, there's not a whole lot that you can't put crossfire onto. For me, for example, I've got a couple of tiny whoops that have the FR Sky receiver built into the flight controller, so those I'm not going to be able to use this radio with. And in those cases, you're just going to have to manage having two radios, which kind of sucks. But do know that there are some tiny whoops and other small drones out there that do have these small, tiny crossfire nano receivers built in with equally as small antennas, so that shouldn't be a problem. So one thing that you want to know is that on the back, the two momentary buttons, you want to hold down the E button and then plug your USB cable in, and then obviously you should have TBS Agent X installed on your computer. And once you let go of this, it should put this into DFU mode, and the first thing you want to do is update that bootloader firmware. And once that is complete, then you want to unplug the USB cable. Then you're going to go over to the other side, hold the F momentary button, plug in your USB cable, and then at that point you can update the crossfire, because that's going to also be in DFU mode. Now I personally had some issues getting the flashing to work on a Mac OS, and really using that DFU button, basically it's like the boot button, is really what did the trick. Alright y'all, so this is going to be the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Drop it down in the comments, let me know what you guys think about the Tango 2. And if you guys want to support me in making more videos like this, check out the store, ohmygod.com. You can buy some swag, some dope hats, kind of like this one. And if that's not your thing, you can also check me out on Patreon. There'll be links in the description below. Alright fellas, peace out.